mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. Why is it fantastic? Because it's the thickest and it's the most often discussed. It's the mixed portion of trigeminal nerve. The other two were purely sensory. This one is a mixed portion. It has a motor component and a sensory component. Together, these components pass through foramen ovale. Note, motor is set of axons from motor nucleus of pons. Sensory is the third branch of trigeminal ganglion. Right. So let's talk about branches from the mandibular. Very, very commonly asked. Do please revise it. So from the main trunk, some branches are from its anterior division, some branches from posterior division. So what do we understand? That mandibular division gives rise to some branches from its main trunk. Then it divides into an anterior division and a posterior division. Anterior will give rise to 3 motor, 1 sensory branch. Posterior division will give rise to 3 sensory branches. I'll give you the details. Come. So from the main branch, it will give rise to a meningeal branch called as nervus spinosus. You know, it's like you're coming out in a hurry from the hostel room. You're in a hurry to come out. So you come out of the door, you lock the door, and then you realize, oh, I forgot my pencil inside. The same thing happens with trigeminal. It comes out of foramen ovale. I want to go and, generally create havoc in the face. But it forgets to supply the meninges. You can't do that. You have to supply the meninges. So what it does is, the first thing it does is gives rise to a meningeal branch of mandibular nerve, which passes back into the cranial cavity through the foramen spinosum. Deal done, supply given to meninges. Now it's free to give rise to branches. Another branch it gives rise to is the nerve to medial pterygoid muscle. Okay. This nerve then gives rise to a branch that goes to otic ganglion, which also supplies tensor tympani and tensor veli palatini. You have to remember all this, okay? Revise it a couple of times, it will come to you. What about anterior division, posterior division? Anterior division gives rise to 3 motor branches. That means 3 nerves that supply muscles. Which muscles? You know that trigeminal nerve gives rise to, supplies 8 muscles, okay? So the 3 muscles supplied by this anterior division are nerve to masseter, deep temporal supplying the temporalis, and nerve to lateral pterygoid. So did you see that? Nerve to medial pterygoid, tensor tympani, tensor veli palatini, masseter, temporalis, lateral pterygoid. 6 muscles are already supplied by mandibular nerve. It gives rise to 1 sensory branch, which is the buccal nerve, which spreads out in this region. Okay, so 1 sensory branch goes inside and picks up sensations from your oral cavity. So it gives rise to your buccal branch. Now what about the posterior division? The posterior division gives rise to 3 sensory branches: auriculotemporal, inferior alveolar, and the lingual. Auriculotemporal going to your parotid, inferior alveolar supplying the lower alveolar margin, the teeth, and the lingual supplying the tongue. But this inferior alveolar gives rise to 1 motor branch, which supplies the last 2 muscles, your mylohyoid and your anterior belly of digastric. Now this is a lot of data. You're going to have to revise it quite a few times. So I have created a diagram. I hope you can use this. Okay, so see. This is your trigeminal nerve, and that yellow branch is the motor root, okay? That's your trigeminal ganglion. These are the branches of trigeminal nerve, V1, V2, V3, okay? And this is the motor root traveling with the V3 or the third mandibular division of trigeminal nerve. So let's see how the mandibular division emerging out of foramen ovale first gives rise to a nerve to the meninges, meningeal branch of mandibular nerve. Then it gives rise to nerve to medial pterygoid, which also supplies the otic ganglion and then goes on to supply tensor veli palatini and tensor tympani. Now it divides into an anterior division and a posterior division. Okay, so let's begin to understand each of these. The anterior division here gives rise to nerve to the masseter, masseteric nerve, deep temporal nerve supplying temporalis, and now to lateral pterygoid, supplying your lateral pterygoid muscle. And the leftover nerve is your buccal nerve. Okay, so 3 motor, 1 sensory. Clear? Let's now go to the posterior division of trigeminal nerve. This is wonderful. I hope you enjoyed. It gives rise to the auriculotemporal nerve. See how beautiful the nerve is. Can you see it's creating a little loop here? See, it forms a loop like this through which your middle meningeal artery passes. If you are good at dissection, do please try this. You will be able to see this beautiful relation. Okay? And you will get that kick out of the dissection. I hope you get that. Right. Continuing, this is the lingual nerve. See how it receives the chorda tympani. Together they travel forwards, passing beneath the submandibular duct to finally distribute in the tongue. And this last one here is your inferior alveolar nerve, which is, of course, like I said, distributing itself along the inferior alveolar margin and the teeth there. It gives rise to a nerve to mylohyoid that also supplies your anterior belly of digastric. So this beautiful diagram, which may look complicated because of so many arrows, forget the arrows. Just draw it a couple of times and you will have your mandibular nerve in hand. It's so easy, but you have to practice drawing it. So if you're liking my lectures, do like and subscribe to my channel.